The question is, aren't you risking getting caught by posting?
Here, you want proof? Here's my tattoo. If anybody doubts, check the website and call the FBI Pittsburgh if you want.
This is Chad Hauer.
Okay, bro, we get it. You're wanted by the FBI. I'm not hiding, FBI. Come get me.
They've been after me for 16 years and can't get me. So what I'm doing here is calling them out. I'm mocking them publicly.
And this is his son. At the age of 11 years old, he went missing. Chad's son, Aris, was believed to be kidnapped and transported to one of two island nations in the Middle East, Cyprus or Bahrain.
I wrote parts of Skype. I wrote parts of the communication system on the space station.
Chad Hauer is a world-renowned computer programmer.
I was a public speaker for Microsoft. I was on TV. I was in newspaper articles. And then I traveled to Bulgaria in September 2009, was arrested.
Here, he discovered that he's wanted by the FBI and Interpol.
I was a very public figure. I had a very successful career until the FBI absolutely destroyed it.
I was the American Taliban when I was in Bulgarian prison. They nicknamed me the Taliban because when I explained to them what I was in for, they didn't believe it. No matter how many times we told them, they absolutely would not believe it.
An extradition failed from here for the same reason it did in Bulgaria. The FBI has no evidence whatsoever because it never happened.
So he traveled to this tiny island nation where he's been living ever since. Chad needed to prove to the world that he did not kidnap his own son. He turned to TikTok and has been using the app as a platform to tell his story.
16 years ago this week, my son went missing. Thing is, he was never missing and they always knew where he was.
His account has received widespread recognition from some of TikTok's largest creators.
It's maybe the wildest story on all of TikTok.
According to Chad, in 2011, he got critically ill. Life-threatening.
3 nights ago, I had 6 convulsions in the middle of the night. What the doctors told me in the new labs is I'm in a race to find out which kills me first. Sepsis, kidney infection, kidney failure, heart attack, or stroke.
It's some vague illness that requires a specialist to diagnose and treat.
Had to revive me at the hospital twice already. They're surprised how I'm still alive as it is. They don't know. And beyond that, I need a lot more diagnostics. We don't even know what I need beyond that. Most urgently, I need electroshock wave lithotripsy.
The type of specialist that isn't available on the island nation he's trapped on.
The doctors have said, you need to not fly very far, even in an air ambulance. You need to go somewhere close. I'm painfully dying here. I need help. I'm begging anybody. This is a cover-up.
If he travels for outside medical help, he'll be detained by Interpol like he was in Bulgaria and sent back to the US on a flight that he says will kill him.
What can I do?
All of this is why Chad Hauer has received over 121 million views and is known as the TikTok fugitive.
I'm Alex, and I'm not missing.
This man is dying because of a crime that he never committed. The victim, his son, even said that it never happened. Originally, I thought, if only the FBI knew. Here's a man that slipped through a bureaucratic loophole and is dying because of it. If media attention could help open up some doors to eventually save this man's life, why wouldn't I tell his story? So I started talking to Chad before this channel even existed. I've been interviewing this international fugitive on and off for over a year. I've been putting together a timeline with Mia, getting to know Chad's helpers, being knee-deep in court documents, tracking down anonymous online accounts, and fact-checking his claims to millions. And after all this time, there may only be one thing I've taken away. The TikTok fugitive is hiding something. Chad is officially charged with the crime of international parental kidnapping. As you may imagine, the root of this is a custody dispute. A few years ago, Chad's missing son, Aris, who now goes by Alex, did a media blitz.
Well, it's a custody battle that didn't go too well. A 25-year-old who's still in the missing person database is trying his best to clear his name and his father's name.
25-year-old Aris Hauer is seeking help to be able to travel back to the U.S. Now he and his father can't do so, all because of a custody battle that went too far.
But the now 25-year-old isn't really missing. He's been unable to leave the Caribbean island, St. Kitts, all because of a battle between his parents that went wrong.
The FBI spent so much money on this case, but they don't want to quit. Way back when I was like maybe 5 or 6, my parents divorced. Tennessee has jurisdiction. My mother had full custody, and my dad had like visitation, but she kept disobeying the court.
See, it's a custody dispute doing custody dispute things.
Others say it was a custody battle that shouldn't have gone this far.
Honestly, I don't even really know who's right here. And it doesn't really seem like my place to have an opinion. Everybody knows custody disputes are notoriously terrible and complex. But this is the part of the story that I think Chad wanted me to focus on the most. Or at least the foundation for it.
It's a farce. They know what's going on.
Chad believes that the way things played out, which is in favor of his ex-wife, point to a deeper conspiracy.
And that's what I'm telling you. This is not just a bureaucratic black hole I'm in.
That some powerful outside force, be it the US government, FBI, or CIA, has some ulterior motive.
This has been intentional from day one. They know what the hell they're doing.
That someone or something powerful wants Chad for another reason. He believes that the custody dispute is so dubious that there must be something else going on.
Now, here's the part I can't say too much about.
So, at risk of wasting my time, I tried to entertain that idea, to see this dispute as Chad does.
Chris, the new guy that joined the group, sorry, what was your name again?
Jack.
Jack. New guy that joined the group, Jack. Go ahead and send him all the documents.
But this is a highly unusual case.
This is from a podcast series called Wanted, where Jack Laurence interviews a defense attorney about Chad's case.
Based upon allegations by the ex-wife, a claim of kidnapping, which seems to be readily shown to be false on its face. So it's interesting you got a U.S. prosecutor to even bring the charges in the first place, let alone then have the appetite to try to go all these steps to extradite the individual. So it's highly unusual on many levels.
August 3rd, 2000. Chad, his now ex-wife, and Alex are all living in Tennessee. Chad gets the news that he won the primary election for his campaign to become a representative in the Tennessee State House. 3 months later, Chad loses the general election by a landslide. The following month, he gets a strange invitation.
December 2000. So my friend, I don't want to reveal his name here, but my friend, let's just call him Harry. That's not his real name, but let's call him Harry. And he was like, hey, you like to travel to weird places and stuff, right? And they needed somebody to carry a lot of bags. So he invited me to go along to Russia with him.
It's a city called Irkutsk. It's out here in Siberia. Personally, you couldn't pay me to go to Siberia in December, but I'm not Chad. When Chad returned home, he and Alex's mom agreed to separate. So we moved to Europe. 2002, divorce is finalized. 2004, Chad gets hired by Microsoft. And this is where the story really unfolds. Chad's ex-wife, at that moment having custody of Alex, violates court orders and moves to Pennsylvania. 2 hearings are held in Tennessee, and Chad's ex-wife is nowhere to be seen. The judge, holding Alex's mother in contempt of court, gives Chad primary custody. Chad's ex-wife tries to move the custody case out of Tennessee and into Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania says, no. Tennessee has jurisdiction. Fast forward through the trenches of a custody battle. Chad's ex-wife won't return Alex to him.
So the judge says, okay, no, there's a Tennessee order. It's still in effect. You have to put the child on the plane. And she's literally like, not going to do it.
And a judge ordered police to remove him from his mother after summer visitation and put him on a plane back to Europe where he lived the last time he was in the United States for visitation. I did not kidnap him. I did not run.
And then a few weeks later, the same judge turns around and orders me to show up to court for a hearing. I'm like, fuck this shit. You just had him. I'm like, listen, you don't even have jurisdiction. Right? And this is when he declared my son was born in Pennsylvania. Then he's like, well, the child's born in Pennsylvania, so I'm taking jurisdiction. But the child wasn't. We objected to that. And he's like, nope, I say he's born in Pennsylvania. So fuck you.
Alex wasn't born in Pennsylvania, but what I'm hearing is that Pennsylvania knowingly lied, forcefully changed their mind, and took jurisdiction of this case. But Tennessee still says their order is active. So we have 2 custody disputes happening in 2 different states that don't say the same thing. And on January 9th, 2007, the Pennsylvania court warns Chad, agree to return Alex in the next 14 days, or Pennsylvania will issue a bench warrant. Over time, this escalates to a secret closed-door hearing to indict Chad at the federal level.
And then when they put me in Interpol, I didn't know. It was done in a secret closed-door hearing. It was done in a grand jury. My lawyers were not notified, so they weren't even allowed to attend. And it was only the DA and my ex-wife and the FBI guy who basically framed me. That was it.
Okay, so something weird might have happened here. I'm not saying I'm sold on the idea of the federal government getting their hands dirty in a custody case from Tennessee, but like millions of others online, I thought maybe making the next question, why is the TikTok fugitive really wanted? When Chad was at Microsoft, he was a representative for the Middle East and Africa region.
I was traveling all throughout the Middle East, carte blanche, no problems. When I did have problems, Microsoft fixed it. I once got into Saudi Arabia with help of the royal family after my visa had a problem. I've been to a lot of places. I have talked to high-level officials. I've spoken to cabinet members in Pakistan. I had Saudi officials from the Saudi Ministry of Defense approach me one time. I think that possibly they saw what happened, and then this FBI guy got interested, and I think that possibly the CIA was trying to recruit me, and they wanted to get me in custody and then be like, well, we can make these charges go away if you work for us.
I won't outright dismiss it, but for me, that raised a lot of red flags. Since gaining a large following on social media, Chad has started a Telegram group. Here, his minions, as he calls them, help him come up with a case, and they also generate non-stop conspiracy theories. I should also mention, Chad often cosplays as Gru from the Minions movies, hence Minions.
Oh, you didn't see my Gru hat. I just got a Minion hat today.
You have a hat too.
Yeah, I got the scarf. I've got.
Please. I've been getting to know Chad's right-hand man, or head minion, if you want to call him that. His name's Chris, and honestly, he seems to be the most level-headed out of the whole group.
Hello, Jack.
It's just a random room of some really weird people, whether it's Chad or some of these other, like, minions, as he calls them, spouting off these half-baked thoughts about the CIA and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's like... That's why I don't read that group chat anymore. I have not seen any evidence that Chad was ever approached by any foreign intelligence agency or that was ever implied by any US agent talking to him after his arrest. I feel like when you're in a situation like his where he's now had like over 10 years to kind of just like piece together narratives, I think that reality and what he's put together in his own head around these things probably don't necessarily match.
AKA, it's all bullshit.
Surely there's got to be more to this than a simple custody battle. I mean, have you ever heard of a man being extradited or attempted to be extradited 3 times by the FBI, placed on a wanted list with an Interpol red notice purely over a custody battle?
Absolutely not, of course. And so as you correctly predicted, it's a highly unusual situation.
I kidnapped a child, according to the FBI. A judge ordered police to take the child and put him on an international flight. The same judge then laid charges of kidnapping on me. I moved to Europe 5 years before and wasn't even in the United States.
Okay, so 2001, and I have to look this up, but I believe it was May. I'm pretty sure it was May when I moved to Europe.
That's not what happened. My son already lived in Europe for several years at that point.
Out of curiosity, I wanted to know what other theories Chad had.
So one of the theories is that I moved out of the United States in early 2001, okay? And I moved to Russia. As an American moving to Russia, in fact, I moved to Siberia, not even like Moscow or St. Petersburg. I moved to Siberia in 2001.
That's not Europe. That's like as Asia gets. Chad moved in with his now wife. She's a Russian national.
But the thing is that she lived in a small town, not even directly in Irkutsk, but she lived in a place called Irkutsk 2. And this is a town that used to be closed to foreigners, so it's one of those secret towns. The whole second city is built around a military aircraft factory that produces Sukhoi fighters and has its own private airport that is only used for the factory. But here's where it gets a little bit deeper. The reason she lived in this city and grew up in this city is both of her parents worked at that factory. And not like sweeping the floors or anything. They had top level clearances. They didn't have like access to materials. They had the materials in their head.
Especially after Chad's outrageous last theory. I set out to verify all this. Directly from Reuters. October 23rd, 2022. A Russian military jet crashed into a residential building in the Siberian city of Irkutsk on Sunday, the second such fatal incident in 6 days. Declassified CIA documents from the Cold War. We were able to geolocate this photo of Chad. Okay, we have a lead. But why tell the world you moved to Europe?
I moved to Europe.
I'm pretty sure it was May when I moved to Europe.
My son already lived in Europe.
So we know the guy travels a lot, but if you were to say when he leaves the US, he moved to X.
I wouldn't be able to say confidently.
In the year 2000, Chad ran for office in the State House of Tennessee. Patriot. A year later, he's living on a secret military base in Russia. Something changed. So we hopped on a call to clarify. We asked specific questions with dates and locations. Some things made sense, like in the winter he would spend time in Cyprus and Turkey, Europe. But other things raised more questions. Chad and his Russian wife purchased citizenship in St. Kitts through a CBI scheme just months after the Pennsylvania judge threatened him with a bench warrant. After his arrest in Bulgaria, he traveled back to St. Kitts using his purchased passport. And he changed his name to Peters. It's reflected on his St. Kitts passport. It's his new name. On this call, Chad's demeanor started to change, to me appearing like a man who felt like he was losing control.
I will talk to you about this now, but when you make the video, do not present this as the first part.
Oh, my God. Well, I do actually want to draw a clear line where in all conversations with you, we cannot give you any editorial insight or say, and if that's something that you want, we can't make this documentary. For months, I had been watching and documenting Chad's online activity. What he posted, how often he posted, number of likes, comments, followers, and look at this. Many weeks where Chad went silent. This is really unlike him. So, what was he up to? I reached out to my friends Rob and Trevor. Trevor is known for being able to look at any image and identify almost exactly where it is in a remarkably short amount of time. Shockingly, Trevor already knew Chad and his story. I sent them a recent photo of Chad from his Telegram group. Chad's not in St. Kitts. He's in Russia. In many ways, Chad is just like us. He leaves little breadcrumbs all around the internet that easily tell us more about him and his behaviors. Like this tattoo. Shown on his wanted poster, it's a phoenix, but it's also a logo for an old company of his that he didn't tell us about. And if you reverse image search the logo, you'll find Phoenix01, his online anonymous username, on a message board where he documents recipes to make meals made out of locusts, of all things. There are companies out there that broker data professionally, and they have information on probably all of us. They can get this data from a variety of sources, like government records, birth certificates, voter records, court documents, or social media, like the posts that you've made, the posts that you've liked, the quizzes that you've taken, or the websites that you've visited. And then they sell it. Your data. Information about you, they are selling online. Chad gave me permission to investigate him. If I, just some dude, can find out Chad's work history that he didn't tell me about, and that he might eat locusts just from like a tattoo on his arm, I don't want to know what an individual with malicious intent can find out or do with data on me. So I use this tool called Delete Me. They go through the strenuous steps of searching hundreds of data broker websites and removing your data from it. In January alone, Delete Me searched 3,500 listings for my information, and they found it listed on 55 different data broker websites. And then they got it removed. Delete Me routinely checks hundreds of data brokers to see if anything new comes up. And then they get it removed on my behalf. Super sweet. Delete Me has also graciously sponsored this portion of today's video. And they're also giving a 20% discount to anyone that joins up using the link in the description. joindeleteme.com/CHUPPL20. CHUPPL 20. So, if you are someone that doesn't like the idea of a corporation selling your personally identifiable information for financial gain, and you see the potential harms and risks of the data economy, click the link in the description, join Delete Me, get 20% off, and you'll get a report within 7 days. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Delete Me, for sponsoring this portion of the video. You enable us to make more videos just like this one. Back to the video. One of the most difficult things about this case is that absolutely no one wanted to talk about it. Chad's ex-wife moved, and she has no public phone number. Chad's old custody lawyers never responded. FBI couldn't comment, and Alex, the kidnapped child, won't take our calls. Hello? He hung up. Feeling defeated, we decided to do our own digging in the endless abyss of the internet. Chad's a computer programmer from the early days. He's been on the internet for a long, long time. We thought, surely there's a paper trail, and there was. Personally, this one's my favorite. Caribbean sunsets. But there's many others. We documented all of Chad's pseudonyms and usernames along the way, each one leading us to the next. What we found is that his life is much different when he posts it anonymously.
And I know, I'm not ready for control, but there's no like backdoor surprises I'm going to find out about here. Like, right, I don't know.
Like I'm part of the FBI? Well, I don't know what you're asking here. If you have any specific concerns, I'd be happy to address them. I just don't know what you're asking.
Nothing specific. I'm always in my position. Just, I always have to be concerned about everything. And I just, I'm just hoping it's not going to come out and like, here's this asshole hiding from the FBI. And if he just turned himself,
I'm also really trusting you here. I'm putting my reputation on the line.
I'm probably the most honest dude you're ever going to find. I was like, honesty is just an integral part of my core.
Google his Russian name.
I got sick in 2011, 2012, and I was critically ill for over 10 years. I was unable to leave my house most of the time. I was in excruciating pain. I was basically slowly dying.
September 11th, 2015. Chad was the judge for a hackathon. Manager, Peter Keaton, like his Russian first name, and Kitsin Nevis, the island he lives on, couldn't work.
No, I have not. Basically, since 2009 forward, I haven't been able to do crap.
Peter Keaton is a computer store. In 2016, they were open 6 days a week. But Peter Keaton is also another YouTube account of his. It's where he documents his road rage incidents.
Then fine, fuck off, lady.
At what point did you lose the ability to, lift something over your head?
Well, I could do it. It's just, it was extremely excruciatingly painful.
Like you would be looking like, trying to do it.
Sometime post 2015.
Now, labor ignored us. Useless patches ignored us.
Yeah, and then I couldn't leave. I had a massage chair. I could barely talk. I remember from COVID, from like 2020 until 2022 or so, I could barely talk.
See this cone? I can take the whole cone, and you can't even see the cone anymore.
When you change your name on YouTube, it doesn't change your URL. That stays as your original username, Piotrby. On cruisersforum.com, user Piotrby says he lived in Cyprus and Turkey and has a Russian wife and can see his 36-foot boat outside his office, which is right where the Peter Keaton computer store is, and that he can't sail every day because he has to go to work at his store and his kids have school. Chad says that some days he feels better than others. He's certainly sick. I've seen proof of it. But this made us think, is he playing this up? And if he is, has he always been doing this? So I went all the way back in Chad's TikTok. This is his second video ever. Listen to how he's talking. He is really sick.
Really, dude? Did I ever ask for money?
His third video ever was him responding to a comment of someone who doubted his illness.
Bulgarian prison over this shit.
I reversed the voice effect.
Everybody knows that if you have pen and paper, it's fake. But he's got pen and paper. Oh my god, it must be fake.
These two videos were posted in the same clothes, in the same chair, just 11 minutes apart.
Really, dude? Did I ever ask for money?
Everybody knows that if you have pen and paper, it's fake.
And none of this is fake. This is me on a good day.
But he's got pen and paper. Oh my god, it must be fake.
Who the fuck is this guy?
So, what he refers to it as is a kidney disease of unknown origin. Because of his health situation, he is not able to be up and active and sitting at a computer. So when he would have some new court filings or he wanted to update something on his website, he would just message me to do it and I would do it. That's something that I would do to help him. So I guess that's the extent of me helping him.
You mentioned in the spring you got connected with Chad.
I was just kind of following around in the background on TikTok, and then a couple times he had direct messaged me. The real catalyst was I had taken a job. That job had a mass layoff in August. For a while, I was just kind of doing Zoom calls with him every week as on top of my job search.
But this is a highly unusual case.
Some online theories paint Chad as a potential Russian intelligence asset. With the knowledge of his time in Siberia, I do wonder if there could be any validity to that. A now deleted page on Chad's Howard.org website includes a biography about his life. Chad's background includes work in the employment, security, chemical, energy, trading, telecommunications, wireless, and insurance industries. The earliest backup of this website occurred during the time that Chad may have been living on the military aviation plant in Siberia. Security, chemical, and energy. He didn't tell me any of that. Bulgaria is a former communist state, just a trip across the Black Sea from Russia. The two used to be great allies. But since 1989, the relations between the two countries have become really fragile. I gotta admit, it's a scary thought. The chance that Bulgaria might not want to piss off their all-powerful neighbors by extraditing a secret asset to America. Is that who we're dealing with?
Typically, you're seeking extradition for either a case that has a high monetary value or someone who's very violent or dangerous.
Why can't the FBI extradite me, and why have 3 extraditions from multiple countries failed?
But under the treaty that's in place between those two governments, it appeared that he would be someone who would be potentially eligible for extradition.
So if there's an extradition treaty in place, why wasn't he extradited?
And they're still trying to get me, even after multiple failed extraditions in multiple countries that were denied by the country's courts because they don't have any evidence. An extradition failed from here for the same reason it did in Bulgaria. The FBI has no evidence whatsoever because it never happened.
That's what Chad says. It's what I and millions of others believed. Here's the real reason.
But under the treaty that's in place between those two governments, it appeared that he would be someone who would be potentially eligible for extradition. I haven't seen any of the rulings from the Bulgarian side as to why they refused to do it.
I have. And it's so boring. It's so boring. Chad's story gets credibility from the attorney in the Wanted podcast, but the attorney admits it. He hasn't seen his documents.
And I don't know if you've come across any materials where the Bulgarian courts or officials have given their reasoning for not doing it.
Why Bulgaria chose not to extradite Chad is the foundation that his house of cards is built on. If there's an explanation for why Bulgaria denied his extradition, then it falls, one card after another. On November 24th, 2009, the extradition hearing was held and the request for extradition from Bulgaria was denied based on lack of dual criminality, meaning Bulgaria denied the American extradition request because Bulgaria did not, at least at the time, have an international parental kidnapping statute.
They aren't saying that Chad is affirmatively innocent.
They had the evidence. Bulgaria just didn't consider it an extraditable offense. This is just how international law works. Chad logically knows this. He's seen the document. I know that because he sent it to me. But he's still convinced that this case was escalated wrongly and maliciously by an FBI agent and a district attorney. He uses TikTok to attack these two and claims that they were in on a conspiracy against him. Is FBI agent Kirk Brace the Rosetta Stone to understanding this story?
He's one of two.
And the other is?
Christian Travel.
But the truth is, Chad's case played out by the books.
And then when they put me in Interpol, I didn't know. It was done in a secret closed-door hearing. It was done in a grand jury. My lawyers were not notified, so they weren't even allowed to attend. And it was only the DA and my ex-wife and the FBI guy who basically framed me. That was it.
Again, here's an attorney talking about Chad's case.
We have grand juries at the federal level, which would apply to Chad's situation. It's all secretive, right? And there's important reasons for that. Number one, you don't want to tip off the potential defendant or defendants that they're being investigated. And on the other side of the coin, you don't want to have people's names smeared in the public just because they're being investigated.
Custody cases happen at the state level. In the 1970s, this caused a huge problem. A divorced parent would move across state lines, file for custody in that new state, and then ignore that old ruling. It was a form of parental kidnapping that the federal government noticed. So they passed the Parental Kidnapping Protection Act, which helps determine which state has jurisdiction. Chad cites some of it here.
Well, to transfer jurisdiction, you have to live in another state for 6 months. So it takes 6 months to transfer jurisdiction. And you have to be there legally. And she had only been in Pennsylvania for 3 months, and she was there illegally. Okay? So it didn't count.
If a child lives in a state for 6 months, it's their home state, and the law gives that state jurisdiction. But if the child doesn't have a home state, like in this case, the law has a way to resolve it. Chad is leaving out that detail. The decision to move the case to Pennsylvania was by the books, the part that Chad is leaving out. Though there is one thing that Chad gets right, he's not guilty of what the indictment claims. Chad Zachary Howard did, with the intent to obstruct the lawful exercise of parental rights, remove a child from the United States, and retain a child outside the United States.
And a judge ordered police to remove him from his mother after summer visitation and put him on a plane back to Europe where he lived the last time he's in the United States for visitation. I did not kidnap him. I did not run.
Chad never removed Alex from the US, but all this comes down to is a typo. Look at this. The law doesn't say and, it says or retain a child outside the United States. This is the law that Chad's officially charged with. Chad could admit this, but instead he chooses to go on TikTok and claim that it's all a farce. And since the indictment says that he removed his son from the US when he wasn't actually there, Chad makes claims saying that the US government says that he's a time traveler.
I was not in the United States in November. They've accused me of time travel.
But the FBI says, we don't care. We say you're a time traveler. And multiple countries have denied my extradition because time travel doesn't exist.
So how did I kidnap somebody? Was it time travel or teleportation? Because I'm confused here.
Chad views himself as the exception to the rule. That much I can say without a doubt. He also eventually told us how he slid under the radar of Interpol and made it back to Russia from St. Kitts.
And they swiped my passport. I could see the screen. It was like at a 45-degree angle. Yeah, it lit up like a Christmas tree. I thought, that's it. They're taking me. He's just like, well, there's a problem with your passport. And then he's making a phone call and he's talking. And after a while, a lady comes over from an office. She's like, okay, welcome to Cuba. I'm like, cool. 4th of July, I drove by the American Embassy and gave them a big old bird from a 1950s Buick.
Hola, FBI.
Suck it. What do you think? Once the plane took off, it was literally like, suck it.
Since getting back to Russia, Chad has received asylum. And he's using that as proof that his case is just as significant as Edward Snowden's.
It's like Snowden and now me. So, for those of you who are saying that my story is, full of it, let me tell you, they don't go to asylum that anybody just shows up. You gotta have legitimate reasons. And I've been telling you my story is legit.
So I reached out to my friend Tanya. She's a Russian-born journalist now working at Bloomberg. She was a producer on the Oscar-winning documentary Navalny. It's about a real high-profile case in Russia. What motivation does the Russian government have to give him asylum?
It's simple. If the U.S. has a beef with him, that makes the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
The Russians know the history of this case. They don't hand this out easily.
That makes sense for high-profile people that are wanted. You think this is just abundant with any low-level, high-level people, that Russia is just super interested in giving asylum?
If the guy with a U.S. passport shows up and says the FBI is after him and he wants asylum in Russia, they will get him to him. That part to me makes sense.
For them to grant asylum to an American wanted by the United States, that's extremely rare.
The United Nations High Commissioner on Refugees collects data on Russian asylum seekers. Since the war in Ukraine, Russian acceptance of asylum of people of any nationality is nearly 100%.
But the charges are false. We know they're false. And I can never prove this, and I was like 90% there, but recently we've got some more documents, and it's clear now. The Americans are trying to get me to spy on the Russians when I lived here in the early 2000s because we have family connections who worked with military technology.
I have the documents that Chad claims prove this. They're emails that he just forgot about. One of them from his lawyer. Chad, I just had another conversation with the FBI agent in PA, and he's talking about coming after you under a specific federal statute if we do not work something out with Nancy. The statute includes retaining a child outside the country and interfering with visitation rights. The agent was quite polite and non-threatening, but he says they'll have to do something soon if we don't reach a compromise.
Just look at the bias in there. They want me to work something out with her. They've already freaking July, if not June of 2007.
To Chad, the FBI being involved as early as 2007 is proof. It's all he needs.
They were just waiting to come after me, and this is what I've always suspected.
There's another discovered email too. It's directly from the corrupt FBI agent. Chad, my name is Kirk Brace. I'm a special agent with the FBI in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm contacting you in regards to the custody situation with you and your son. I'm not here to act as a judge, but merely here to enforce the law. With that said, I simply suggest that you research the law for yourself, specifically United States Code Title 18, Section 1204. Please feel free to contact me at the FBI Erie office to discuss this further. Chad, I'm a father myself and sincerely hope that we can resolve this in a cooperative manner in the best interest of all parties. Thank you. Kirk Brace, FBI. To me, I read this as a second chance from the FBI, but to Chad,
completely, utterly insane. They were waiting, just waiting for something to happen and go right after me. While not conclusive proof, this is a pretty big freaking gun smoke, even if we don't have the smoking gun itself. I mean, it's like we have the shell casing and we just don't have the gun yet, but this is freaking huge.
Child custody and visitation matters are handled by local and state authorities and not by the federal government. Wait, no, with the exception of international parental kidnapping. Straightoffjustice.gov. Buy the books. Buy the books.
Look at me. Can you even believe how crazy I look? Look at this. Look at this face.
It's 3 days before this video goes live. I'm stopping the edit here because yesterday, Chad's attorney from Pennsylvania finally got back to us and I interviewed her. Have you seen anything to do with Chad in recent days? Have you been following along with his updates?
It's probably been 8 or 9 months since I've seen anything. I knew they were doing a big campaign about Eris and him being missing, quote unquote, etc.
Chad has transitioned from my son isn't actually missing to now spreading a narrative of what I would call very high level conspiracy theories against the US government.
Oh dear.
That the FBI and the CIA are trying to recruit him to be a spy.
Oh, no, I had zero idea about any of that, and I can't see how that will help his case on any front, from space even. No. Wow.
Did anything during the court case lead you to any sort of conclusion that would support his theories that he is wanted for another reason other than international parental kidnapping?
No.
Is that like a certainly no? Like some weird things happen?
Absolutely no. I didn't hear anything ever along that line.
Does that just seem totally out
That
of
would
nowhere?
really be awesome. I mean, what I do now is I'm a novelist, and I would love to write that up.
Barbara, from my perspective, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that Chad also sees this as a story, and it's a story that millions, hundreds of millions of people have bought into online.
Now, unfortunately, there are way too many people who will buy that. As far as I'm concerned, it seems very far-fetched.
I'm not trying to come for this guy, but it seems like what he's doing is somewhat dangerous.
I come at you with a true story, no tinfoil whatsoever, purely provable, and people are like, he's crazy.
Chad really wants press on his story, and reporters have been interested, but he says without fail, they all stop responding.
I'm quite sure it's the FBI.
Chad is convinced that that is proof that the FBI is intimidating journalists not to tell his story.
3 extraditions, can't get him on by the FBI, and yet nothing because the FBI keeps squishing the stories.
All I know is the FBI sure as hell hasn't come for me. So here's what we end on. I couldn't figure out where Chad's ex-wife is. From what I do know, it seems this situation has torn her life apart. She declared bankruptcy, her house foreclosed, she went off the grid. So for as much as I wanted to hear her side of the story, it seems that she wants privacy, and I'll respect that. Alex is now 27. He still lives in St. Kitts, doesn't talk to press, but he also doesn't really talk to Chad.
You mentioned contact with Alex is off limits.
He's not even talking to me much anymore because I pushed. There was a journalist. I pushed on that, and he's basically told me leave him alone.
The only real winner here is Chad. With Russian asylum, the chances of him going to an American prison are slim to none. And he's gained a remarkably large following online. Some of those followers joined Chad's Telegram group. There, they become one of his minions and often dedicate countless hours of their life to Chad and his story.
Whenever like a new reporter like reached out to him for interest in the story, Chad would just have me, since I had this understanding through interviewing him, talk to new journalists that sort of came on the scene because he sees a third party as lending legitimacy. Chad knows that, like, it sounds crazy coming from him.
I'm curious how you feel about that. Being in that role, it seems like you didn't even really sign up for it.
Yeah, I would agree that I didn't really sign up for it.
I found some stuff that I'm just curious what your response is. So we found a computer store in St. Kitts. Seems to be yours.
Well, I ran it. It wasn't mine, but yeah.
Do you see why that's a little bit concerning? You've kind of been telling us repeatedly that you haven't worked a day since Bulgaria.
Well, I haven't been working on the software side.
Couldn't work?
No, I have not. Basically, since 2009 forward, I haven't been able to do crap.
To be clear, we've been told by you that you haven't worked a day in any capacity since Bulgaria. And from our perspective, we see this computer store, and it's relatively concerning to us.
Yeah. No, then, yeah, I see where you're coming from there.
It plays into the health thing, too, a little bit, where you were saying you have been so sick that you weren't able to really leave your house during those years.
I got sick in 2011, 2012, and I was critically ill for over 10 years. I was unable to leave my house most of the time. I was in excruciating pain.
Ignored us? Patches, useless patches ignored us.
I was basically slowly dying.
Have you ever played up your story for the purpose of, like, PR?
So, I mean, as far as have I hyped things? Yes. Have I lied? Have I faked? No. But TikTok, I have to do that. I have to get attention. That's the only way things work.
But he's got pen and paper. Oh my god, it must be fake.
I'm sorry if you felt I misled you on the work part. I don't have to make things up. But I understand why you asked me that question, because the things they have done to me are so absurd. But if you look at all the absurd things that I can prove that they did, once I found those July emails, that's good enough for me. The FBI does not get involved in a case like this in a matter of weeks. There's no way. The Department of State, Department of Justice. In fact, I've been doing a lot more research lately. Look at the Newburgh 4. Listen, I got all the dots here. Paint the picture.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. If media attention could help open up some doors to eventually save this man's life, why wouldn't I tell his story? All right, Chad, I mean, that's all I've got.
I'm probably the most honest dude you're ever going to find. I mean, it's like, you know, honesty is just an integral part of my core.
Though I've talked to attorneys about this case, I am no expert in the law. Destiny, the controversial and now banned Twitch streamer, hosted Chad and 3 attorneys on his stream. While playing Diablo 4, Chad's narrative got torn apart.
Okay, you're the one crying about interruptions, right?
And Chad reacted as expected, with a TikTok playlist.
Flat out lied about several things in my case.
I'm sure you'll see CHUPPL up there soon.
It's a shame because Destiny could be covering a true story.
So, in lieu of a happy ending, enjoy the comment section. And thanks for watching.
Try and shoot all the holes you can. I've had people try before.